Have you ever found yourself in a position where you found yourself questioning everything you once believed to be true? Perhaps it was something political or religious, or maybe you found out someone close to you was not as trustworthy or morally upstanding as you once thought. Maybe someone you loved turned out to be a monster. When I was in high school, my father started what he referred to as Project in our basement. He insisted that it was strictly for business, and he wanted everything down there to be kept strictly confidential. The basement would be off limits to everyone but himself. He even went so far as to having the basement walls soundproofed. I admit I found it strange that his job would demand such secrecy from him, but otherwise, I didn't give it any thought. Some of my friends at my high school were into all kinds of kinky videos or shock videos, like 2 girls, 1 cup. So it wasn't uncommon for them to spend time on obscure websites. I had never heard of these, but I spent very little time on the internet myself, typically just to look up NFL or NBA highlights. One particular day, we were sitting at the lunch table, and my friends were talking about the usual bizarre stuff that they were into, describing it in disgusting detail. I was never interested, so I barely paid much attention. Then one of the guys, Kevin, began talking about something he described as the dark web. And what he described made all that stuff that he talked about before tame in comparison. Hitman sites, videos of animal cruelty and mutilation and torture. He even saw links to CP, although he denied clicking them. Kevin invited us all for a sleepover, at which he would show us some of the things he was talking about. We all agreed to come over, as he was navigating us through the dark web. I saw that he wasn't exaggerating anything. Every single horrific thing he described was present. He stumbled across a random untitled video link. "What do you think? Should we watch?" Everyone answered enthusiastically in the positive, although I was indifferent. With that, he clicked the link. The screen then changed to a very dark room, and for about 30 seconds, all we could hear would be the sound of heavy breathing. Finally, a small beam of light appeared, apparently from a flashlight, illuminating some guy wearing a strange mask, a top hat, and a suit and a cape. His voice was deeply distorted, so we couldn't recognize it. "Good evening, and thank you for joining us. You may call me Hawkins, and boy do I have a show for you," he said with tremendous enthusiasm. "Tonight, we have ourselves a trio of victims," and with that, the rest of the screen became illuminated. The room that they were in was small and cramped, and the walls were painted red. On the back wall, 2 women were locked up in wall-mounted cuffs. They were both completely nude, one of them overweight, and the other very fit. It was not some stereotypical dungeon in an old horror movie, but as I would soon discover, this was not a movie. Hawkins approached one of the female prisoners. "Oh, you are one ugly thing. Things like you don't deserve to share this world with the pretty ones." He glanced over to the other woman, who was easily the more attractive one. "Am I right?" he said to her. She said nothing. I have something special planned for you. But for now, we deal with the ugly one. I stood there near my friends, worrying incessantly about what the man had on his mind. Garden shears, I heard Hawkins say. With that, a second pair of hands appeared from our screen and handed the man a pair of garden shears. He slowly crept up to the woman. A pity. If only you were better looking, I might not have to do this. Without warning, he opened the shears and sliced off both of the woman's breasts, leading to a deafening scream from her and shocking gasps from me and my friends, one of whom began to vomit. Hawkins then went down to the woman's feet and tried to cut them off, but found it difficult as she had very thick ankles. No matter. Chainsaw. My heart sunk at the mention of a chainsaw. I heard him rev up the thing and slowly cut into the woman's ankles once again, leading to a more prolonged screaming and tears streaming down her face. Hawkins' mask and costume became splattered in her blood, and after slicing off both of her ankles, he began cutting into her abdomen, leading to all sorts of blood and guts spewing all over the place. At that point, one of my friends passed out from the shock. I'll leave you to bleed to death. But as for you, he said, moving towards the second woman. Whip, Hawkins said to his unseen assistant. He received the whip and walked up to the woman and proceeded to give her a number of brutal lashings. It was at this point where Kevin typed in the message box, "What is your problem? The police will hear about this." Hawkins was about to unzip his pants when the assistant spoke up. "Hey boss, check the message." Hawkins kicked the woman in the gut before coming over to the camera. "Oh, a tough guy, eh? Gonna call the police on me, huh, Kevin?" And with that, we all gasped in horror as the crazy masked man mentioned my friend's name. No matter. I have all the information I need on you. Looks like I'll be seeing you soon enough. Now if you'll excuse me, I have business to attend to. It was here when Kevin shut off the computer. My other friends bailed, but I chose to stay with him the night, even though I was equally scared out of my wits. Fortunately, nothing happened, but Kevin didn't get any sleep at all. A couple of weeks passed, and it appeared that what had taken place had blown over. Until one Friday night, I was watching the news when I heard a report of a mass homicide nearby. I was horrified when I saw the reporter standing outside what I recognized as Kevin's house. Kevin was reported as missing while his parents and siblings were brutally murdered. My God, they got him. During the night, I woke up to use the restroom. As I walked out, I saw my father coming up the stairs, looking like he had just finished yard work, as his clothing was covered in dirt. "Dad, it's 1 a.m. What are you doing?" I asked. "Fixing a busted sprinkler." "At 1 a.m.? "Why not? Is there some rule that says I can't?" you said sarcastically. "Whatever, Dad." I went back to bed and thought nothing of it. That was until next afternoon. My dad was out running some errands when I decided I was going to be a naughty little boy. I was going down to head into the basement to see what all the secrecy was about. I didn't usually have a rebellious streak, but after what had happened, I was definitely feeling curious as to what was down there. I flipped the light switch on, and so far didn't see anything out of the ordinary. It didn't really look any different from the last time I saw it. Then I looked behind the staircase and noticed something which hadn't been there before. A door. My curiosity got the better of me. I opened the door and a light turned on automatically. What I saw caused me to freeze in terror. The door led to a room with red painted walls and wall-mounted cufflinks, just like the ones in the awful livestream weeks earlier. In a corner lay the blood-stained garden shears, and a chainsaw as well as the whip. At the front of the room was a desk with a computer and a mask. The same strange mask worn by the man only known as Hawkins. I heard my father shouting and cussing upstairs as he saw the basement door open. He came down looking angry and stopped in his tracks when he saw me standing in the entry of his secret room and holding the mask. His expression changed from anger to shock as we stared at each other for the longest time. My father was arrested later that day. He had soundproofed the walls to prevent any possibility of anyone's screamings from being overheard by anyone in the house. Also, my friend Kevin and those two women were buried in our backyard, their bodies thoroughly dismembered and laid on top of one another. That would explain my father's late-night yard work. I can't believe the man who raised me turned out to be such a vile monster. I always believed him to be a very principled and honourable man, but that is no longer the case. And now I am left to wonder whether or not he passed some kind of bad seed to me, and whether I will too one day snap and become the same kind of monster that he had become. When I was 12, I got into hacking, and I loved it. And I had gotten quite good at it. But my arrogance caused my unbecoming. You see, I was browsing some forum, and I came across something labeled as the dark web. I was overcome with curiosity, so I clicked on it. The post provided everything from what it was to how to access it. I, arrogant enough to think I wouldn't get caught, proceeded to download Tor browser with no extra precautions and started browsing. All of a sudden, my laptop crashed and froze, and I got hundreds of pop-up warnings informing me I had a virus. Then it shut off. I stared in awe as it turned back on, only with a green light turned on where my camera was. Someone was watching. I got an anonymous message on Skype that read, "You made the biggest mistake of your life." "Who are you?" I responded while panicking and covering my camera with my thumb. "Your new friend." And with that, the chat just suddenly disappeared. I formatted my laptop and made sure there was no remaining malware or viruses, and had a quiet couple of days after that, and was pretty relieved I thought I had defeated him. But sadly, I would come to know that wasn't the case. A week later, I was getting dressed in my room and was completely naked when I got a text on my phone that had no caller ID. It said, "Come closer." Who is this? The text didn't faze me yet though. I thought it was a wrong number, or one of my friends prank calling me. Come closer. Closer to what? I wasn't sure what my friend was messaging me at this point. To the camera. Huh? What camera? Okay, which one of you a-holes did this? I was confused, but I had told my friends about the incident a couple of days ago, so other than the anxiety growing within me, I was consciously trying to convince myself it was a prank. Laptop. I walked over to my laptop still naked and saw the light of the camera wasn't on. I know you're either Joey or Zach. I put down my phone and got dressed, and my phone started vibrating uncontrollably. I'd received 16 pictures of me, all naked. I screamed and ended up breaking my phone screen from the impact. I went off the grid completely. No social media or internet. That was it. Especially mortifying for a 12-year-old girl. When I got back on later, I had no issues or warning signs and was relieved until almost 4 years later. I had gotten a new laptop and I was at my boyfriend's house. We were studying together when it turned into a makeout session. I heard my laptop ding many times and had gotten annoyed and turned around to see what it was. I guess I must have looked like a ghost, because my boyfriend started panicking and shaking me. It was him. He's back. Or maybe he never left. I started rewinding of all the times I've been undressing with my laptop on, every time I've shared something private during a Skype call, and I started having a panic attack. His message read, "Don't forget to use protection," as if I couldn't smell the irony in that. He then continued to harass me for the next 2 years, but it's been quiet for a year now. Until about 4 hours ago, I got a text that read, "Let me in." And then I heard a knock on my door. The door was locked and deadbolted, so there's no way I'm leaving my apartment. I'm safe in here. I called the police 3 hours ago and no one's shown up. I called again half-hour ago. Nothing. I called my boyfriend an hour ago and he said he's on his way, but now he's just not answering his phone. Update. My boyfriend came over 5 minutes ago, and when he saw me breaking down crying, he swore up and down he didn't get a call from me. And we went to the police station together, and there was no record of my call. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do.